Funding for Schaefer-Ellis is provided by
Squarespace, the sponsor of today's video. It's the Muppet Ranking with our very special host, Schaefer-Ellis! Yay! Alright, let me explain how this video came about. On October 20th, I got an email with no subject line, and the entire email just read, Muppet Movie Ranking? This was such an innocent and wholesome way of requesting a video from me that I genuinely couldn't get it out of my head. This one person single-handedly convinced me to make a video ranking all of the Muppet movies, despite the fact that I had 5 other ranking videos planned for November and December of 2024. And that's how the Schaefer-Ellis Sandwich 6 was born. That's right, this is number 5, baby. You're finally gonna see the penultimate installment of me making that sandwich when we get to the sponsor segment. Woo! Oh, yeah, and don't take this as an invitation to obnoxiously spam me with requests to review anything else. I'll only do it if you're nice and not annoying about it. Anyway, the Muppets! I never really grew up with these guys, surprisingly. I mean, I watched Sesame Street like any toddler would, but I don't think any of the Muppet gang was really in the show by the time I started tuning in. Nah, I went my whole life not watching a single Muppet TV show or movie for a while there. Eventually I saw a couple, namely the original Muppet movie, Christmas Carol, Treasure Island, and the Muppets 2011. Most of these were because my friends, Hal and William in particular, are kind of Muppet fiends. And even though I enjoyed those movies, it wasn't until I watched the entire Muppet filmography back to back when I really got it. I have been obsessed with the Muppets lately. I'm a real Muppet fiend now. These guys are so off the wall, so funny, so endearing, so wholesome. I absolutely adore them, and it really does feel like you're never too old to get into the Muppets. You can always enjoy the lovable characters, catchy songs, and great comedy these movies have to offer. But some are definitely better than others, which is exactly why I'm here today, to tell you which of these movies are peak and which ones are bleak. Now, there have only been 8 theatrically released Muppet movies, and I thought that might have made for a somewhat lightweight video, but fortunately, the Wikipedia page of all the Muppet productions also lists 3 TV movies, perfect for beefing up this ranking. Do I regret watching those movies? Yes, but let's not get ahead of ourselves here. 11 feature-length Muppet adventures here to be ranked. Let's go!
Disappointment in the game of life!
In a true break from Schaefer-Ellis ranking tradition, the bottom spot on this list is so boring and so substanceless that I not only can't muster even the faintest hint of anger towards it, I don't even know if I can say that much at all about it. It's one of the most in one ear and out the other things I've ever seen. And I genuinely want to keep this as brief as humanly possible, since I actually have shit to say about every other Muppets movie. So, I guess I'll say this. Kermit's Swamp Years is a dull, joyless affair that offers practically nothing I actually like out of the Muppets. I didn't chuckle or smile once, and I can't remember the name of any character introduced in this movie.
Who the fuck are you?
Okay, I take that all back. None of that applies to Roy. For some reason, the extremely casual tone in his voice was just hilarious to me.
I'd like to welcome you to our little pet store here, if you know what I mean.
But he's only in this for 2 minutes! The absence of all the interesting and cool Muppets is extremely felt, and Kermit himself is somehow at his least entertaining and compelling in this movie. Genuinely, this is a void where entertainment goes to die. I only enjoyed one sequence, and that was this musical number at a pet store. Okay, that was kinda cute. Otherwise, what a slog. There's a movie ranked above it that I had a more visceral, negative reaction to, but at least there were quite a few things about it that caught my attention. Not for good reasons, but there was something there, I guess. There's nothing with this movie. It has direct-to-DVD sequel written all over it. I guess this had a terrible CG fly at the beginning. Kermit meets a young Jim Henson, and just in case you couldn't tell it was him from this mailbox, they then cut to a shot of just the mailbox. You know, in case you missed it, it was pretty small in the last frame. The science teacher villain in this was so lame. He reminded me a little bit of Wanda Sykes in the Sandy Cheeks movie. Honestly, I would rather watch the Sandy Cheeks movie than this. Dude, I am really struggling. I'm like stretching this because I feel like I should delve into the reasons why I didn't like Kermit's Swamp Years, but I just don't know if I can. I have nothing to say. It's so boring. How many synonyms are there for the word boring? It's tedious, dull, repetitive, monotonous, passionless, spiritless, soulless, jejune, stodgy, quotidian, and every other adjective. If this movie was your childhood, I'm sorry.
Well, thanks, James. I appreciate your genuine concern about me.
That your childhood sucks and your parents should have shown you Romeo and Juliet seal with a kiss instead.
Well, fuck you!
Oh yeah, there was also like a rock cover of Rainbow Connection at the end. Literally, what the hell was that? Oh yeah, one last thing I almost forgot to mention. For the ranking, I watched this movie on the night daylight savings ended, which means I gained an extra hour. And I'm sure glad I did, because I got back the hour I wasted watching this movie. Oh! Okay, let's talk about a deliciously bad movie now.
Oh, wait, shit, that's from the library.
The Muppets Wizard of Oz should be a slam dunk. It's so easy to make this good, I feel. The Wizard of Oz is a story and property that just makes perfect sense to be mashed up with the Muppets. But all I heard about the TV movie that actually did so was that it's pretty bad. So I watched it, and it's pretty bad. I honestly wasn't expecting this level of sheer misery and boredom from a movie that seemed like such a good idea. What exactly went wrong? Well, for starters, the visuals are awful. The opening song looks like a really poorly shot music video, the sets are pretty generic and uninspired, and the heavy use of TV budget CG is, well, I mean, just see for yourself. It's so atrocious. Oh my god. Gonzo talks to a sexy PS2 lady and then she morphs into a chicken and this gets him really horny. I think this might be the single most bizarre scene I've ever seen in any of these Muppets movies. And this is a movie that features an extended Quentin Tarantino cameo. But like, he's not even part of the story. It's like a Family Guy cutaway to him pitching to Kermit what should happen in the fight scene of the movie we're currently watching. It's so weird and it's never explained what it's doing here, and it visually looks like a Neil Breen movie, and who made this shit? This movie is also so aggressively horny and inappropriate for no real reason. The first scene of the Muppets in the entire movie, Gonzo makes a Girls Gone Wild reference. Pepe calls himself sexy like 10 times. Miss Piggy grabs Kermit's ass. Like I mentioned earlier, Gonzo gets aroused by a PS2 chicken lady. I don't know, call me old-fashioned, but I don't like this shit in excess in my Muppet movie. The adult jokes in the Muppets land so much better when they're sparse. The joke in Caper about the guy going out to dinner with a lady who isn't his wife. That is so much funnier than literally anything in this movie. And it's especially great because it feels out of pocket compared to the rest of that movie. This one just has an annoying air of horniness to it the entire time, to the point where it just becomes exhausting. And it's just generally boring and not really all that funny. I think I chuckled like 2 or 3 times and that's about it. That's awful for a Muppet movie. It really doesn't help that out of all the Muppets, I think the only one I would actively say I don't like is Pepe. Like, he started to get on my nerves when I watched the Christmas movie where he plays a big role, but he's 10 times more annoying here. To the point where every other quip out of his mouth, I considered just giving up on this movie and changing the whole ranking, so it was just the theatrical films. I already watched the TV Christmas movie before this one though, so I didn't want to lose that time investment. I think the only thing I kind of enjoyed consistently was Miss Piggy as the Wicked Witch of the West, who's kind of like a cool biker lady in this. It was pretty fun to see her act unabashedly villainous for a change. Though the fact that she plays the other witches too is what really made me realize, wow, they really don't have any other female Muppets, do they? There's like the one lady in the band and that's it. Oh, speaking of the band, sorry, I just keep thinking of new reasons why I hate this movie, but there are so many jokes in this that aren't horny, but just go on for way too long to the point where they're not funny. There's this one part where the band isn't there to do a song for Miss Piggy, and it's almost funny, but the bit just goes on so long as they all walk into place one at a time. There's a part where Dorothy isn't standing right on the wizard's trap door, and instead of him just quickly and sheepishly saying, like, can you go down the door or something, they drag it out, like, oh, this is awkward, do you see the trap door? Can you go down this trap door? Oh, that trap door? Yeah, that trap door. Fuck you. This movie is so unlikable. The bit where Pepe plays with Gonzo's nipples. After Gonzo says, those are my nipples, if Pepe just looked at the camera with a shocked expression, that would have sold it. But no, he just gives this ridiculous, overblown reaction that doesn't really feel justified. It's just, how is everything about this movie wrong? Even the songs kinda suck. Miss Piggy's villain song was okay, I guess, but the rest are just terrible. Did anything else happen in this? They find George Bluth in the attic. At one point, Dorothy goes through this machine and they turn her into a white lady. I don't know, man. This movie is soul draining. I can't do this anymore. We need to move on. This fucking sucks so bad. Do not watch this movie under any circumstances. Well, I'm sorry to say, but I didn't really enjoy the Muppet Christmas movie all that much. Oh, not the Muppet Christmas Carol. No, that's obviously later in the list. I was talking about the 2002 TV movie, It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie. Yeah, that's all 3 TV movies taking up the bottom 3 spots on this list. I really wanted to give them a fair shot. You know, just because it's a TV movie, that doesn't necessarily mean it's lesser than something that released in theaters. These movies just so happen to be lesser than the theatrical ones. And even though this one isn't awful, it just feels off, both in terms of writing and direction. There aren't really a lot of super great jokes in this, and a lot of the timing of the scenes doesn't seem right. They often end too abruptly, and the jokes feel misdelivered as a result sometimes. The plot is basically the exact same as the 2011 Muppets movie. Oh no, we're gonna lose the theater if we don't get enough money, oh no! It definitely works a lot better there though. Here it's not nearly as emotionally investing of a conflict, and there's a bunch of other stuff distracting from it. Like, Kermit wishes he was never born, so we gotta do a whole Wonderful Life parody that doesn't get started until the last 30 minutes. We also get to see the angels working in a heaven cubicle. And God herself, played by Whoopi Goldberg. Yeah, wasn't that fitting casting? I kept waiting for her to actually interact with a Muppet, but she never does. She just sits back and watches Kermit's depressing life on TV the whole time. I like when she said she wanted to watch SpongeBob instead. That was so real. One of the things I wasn't huge on though is how many contemporary pop culture references there were. Like, it so feels like a 2002 movie, whereas aside from some cameos, all the other Muppet movies feel completely timeless. Yeah, it's pretty funny when Miss Piggy gets a job as an extra on the set of Scrubs, or when the people of Whoville show up and mistake a green Fozzie for the Grinch. These aren't bad bits, but they also feel a little too much like Universal using the Muppets to advertise things they own that were popular at the time. Brand synergy and all that. I also didn't like the Fear Factor scene because that meant Joe Rogan had to be in this movie. I don't want Joe Rogan in a Muppet movie, I'm sorry. The Wonderful Life stuff is okay. It's interesting to find out that Kermit may have indirectly caused 9/11, but aside from one sweet scene with Miss Piggy, it's not really that compelling. Joan Cusack is this evil business lady who manipulates Pepe because she wants the theater, is fine too, but she's not really one of the top tier Muppets villains. There were really only 3 things about this movie I really enjoyed. The scene where Kermit screams over and over again, "I wish I was never born." It was pretty funny the way he said it. The scene where Fozzie delivers the money, because it had a lot of the energy and charm that the rest of the movie kinda lacked, especially the bit with the lasers. And my personal favorite bit in this entire film, one that I had no idea about going in, the damn Moulin Rouge sequence they put on. Now you're speaking my language. They really went into it there. It was so delightful seeing the Muppets take on such a batshit insane musical. I assumed this was another instance of NBC and Universal advertising themselves, but no, they didn't even own Moulin Rouge. Fox did. They made this parody for the love of the game, which definitely makes me appreciate it a lot more, even if it is as of its time as the other references. Seriously, how did I never know about this? Simply wild. Despite these high moments, this one's really kind of boring, and it just feels less grand and professional than a lot of the other Muppet productions. I know it's a TV movie, but that's not really an excuse for the writing and timing of the jokes to not be as sharp as usual. It's harmless enough, but I don't know if I'm ever gonna watch anything outside of the Moulin Rouge scene again. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. I really liked the Doc Hopper's reference in The Bad Future. That was a pretty cool bit of continuity.
What continent is this?
Manhattan.
The Muppets Take Manhattan really should have been right up my alley. I mean, it's about them putting on a Broadway show. A Broadway show! That's like my thing! But ultimately, it's kind of just unfocused and all over the place. And while there are a lot of great gags, there aren't nearly as many of them as some of the best Muppet movies. I enjoyed a lot of parts, like Miss Piggy on roller skates and the guy who owns the skates getting involved in her argument with Kermit. All the rat scenes in this were pretty good. The scene with Piggy and Joan Rivers was was pretty cute. I like that the guy who owns this restaurant Kermit works at is Greek. Greeks stay winning, baby! Overall though, the plot of this movie kind of gets lost in the shuffle, considering how much time it devotes to charming, but not all that funny sketches and bits. It kind of just feels like a bunch of random scenes that don't take full advantage of the movie being set in Manhattan. I want to see Kermit and friends at Times Square. Have Animal fuck up the Statue of Liberty, I don't know. Something that makes better use of the premise than random cuts to unrelated stuff Kermit's friends are doing. He doesn't even really move the plot forward. He just gets a letter an hour in from a guy who found his script and wants to produce the show. And just when you think the plot is getting back into motion, Kermit gets hit by a car and gets amnesia. First of all, it would have been really funny if the car just sent the puppet flying. I really wish they would have done that. Second, I don't really know why we needed the amnesia plotline. It's really abrupt and doesn't add too much to the film. There are some funny bits with these advertising frogs he joins, but overall, it just feels like another unnecessary detour. I would have just liked to see Kermit try and produce a damn show on Broadway, instead of floundering for most of the movie doing unrelated things. Mainly though, I'm just disappointed this isn't a better musical. Song-wise, it's one of the weakest, and you'd really think they would take full advantage of the premise to make big Broadway-esque numbers. But weirdly, the previous movie that isn't Broadway related at all is the one that had those. Nothing in this movie really comes close to the highs of Caper for me. I kinda wished I was watching that one instead the whole time. It's an especially unfavorable comparison when you consider that both of them have romantic musical moments between Kermit and Miss Piggy at roughly the same time in the story. Except it just felt a lot more genuine in Caper. Whereas here, they kinda clunkily flashback to when everyone was a baby? I don't think that really fit in at all, but you know, I guess we gotta put a backdoor pilot for Muppet Babies somewhere. It's honestly a pretty fun song, but it just feels so weird and out of place story-wise. I will say, I really did like the actual show they put on at the end. The wedding was very sweet. I like that all the Sesame Street guys were invited. I don't know, man, I'm kind of a sucker for the Sesame Street cameos in these movies. Overall, it's a likable and watchable film, but I don't think it really lived up to its premise, nor is it as consistently gut-bustingly funny as some of the other ones, even if it does have its moments. Not bad at all, just kind of okay.
Once you've established the road, you and your child can enjoy the road.
The Muppet Movie, the original, the classic, Would you guys kill me if I said this one's a little overhyped for me? I mean, I like it, it's cute and breezy and overall a good time, but I just don't know if it really flows all that well for me as a film. It's more of a series of escapades showing how Kermit gradually comes to meet every one of his merry band of Muppets, all loosely tied together by him being inspired to go to Hollywood and make it in show business. I think it starts out really great, particularly when it's just Kermit and Fozzie playing off of each other. They make a really natural and likable duo, and I kinda wish the whole movie could have just been them the whole time. Not that I don't like the other Muppets, I mean obviously you gotta have them all in here, but I don't know, the more characters get added to the journey, the less each of them individually gets to shine. To be fair, the Kermit and Miss Piggy stuff is pretty sweet, and the stuff with the insane frog leg selling villain is all pretty fun as well. It's nice that this movie has a human bad guy who really matches the zany tone of the Muppets, and he had some great moments throughout. Overall though, I feel like the film just stops and starts way too often, and has too many detours that aren't super fun or engaging. The movie is never unlikable, but I just found some parts of it to be a little duller than others. I'll also admit that not all the cameos in this really worked for me. Some of them just felt a little too, ooh, look who we got for this, for my tastes, instead of them naturally fitting the story and tone of the movie. Like, the Mel Brooks one really worked, because he was an actual character. Like him showing up as a crazy German scientist who wants to scramble Kermit's brains for the frog leg seller weirdly fit very well. But then you got Carol Kane showing up when Kermit says myth, and I don't know, I didn't really get what the joke was there, aside from, like, she has a lisp, and also, it's a cameo. The Steve Martin bit also went on a little too long, I felt. And then the ending. I mean, on the one hand, it is really funny to have Orson Welles show up at the end, but if I didn't know who that was, which, you know, a lot of people watching the movie nowadays probably won't, I don't know if it's really a satisfying conclusion to the movie. Without the cameo factor, it just feels a little anticlimactic for there to just be a guy here who says, okay, yeah, let's get you the rich and famous contract. Like, the David Lynch cameo at the end of The Fabelmans works so well because even if you don't know who that guy is, he's funny as shit in the scene. I don't know, I just wish Orson Welles had something funnier to say here. Okay, going back to some positive feelings about a cameo, I really did like the Big Bird appearance a lot. That was pretty cute. One last complaint I have is that the climax feels really weak. Like, we're introduced to this growth serum right here, and then 5 minutes later, an animal grows really big, and that just scares the main villain off. I would have liked something a little more exciting or a little more goofy as a way of taking him down. But, oh well. I don't really want to complain too much about this movie, because it is really likable and genuinely pretty ambitious. This is probably weird to say, but I really like the way it's shot. It just looks so naturalistic. And that really helps sell the idea that the Muppets are actually going on an adventure in our real world. There are some incredibly funny gags in this. I really like what an everyman Kermit feels like, and the scene where he talks to himself and reflects on the journey in the third act is really nice. The songs are mostly pretty solid, though there's only really two that stuck out in my mind for years since I first saw the movie. Moving Right Along is a really fun and bouncy road trip song. I dig it a lot. But obviously, the single greatest song and greatest element of this film in general has got to be Rainbow Connection. It's like staggeringly good. I didn't include it on my best I Want songs in musicals ranking because it's pretty abstract and doesn't fully apply to the narrative arc of the movie, in my opinion. But oh my god, this is genuinely one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard in my life. And there's no reason for it to be. It's just a little song for Kermit to sing in his swamp. They did not need to go so hard and craft the most hauntingly gorgeous lyrics and delicate soaring melody I've ever heard. How the hell did this lose Best Original Song at the Oscars? It's like one of the best songs to ever come out of a movie, period. Overall, this is a fun, enjoyable film, and I respect the amount of effort it must have taken to pull off, considering nothing of this scale had ever been done before with the Muppets. It's pretty likable and fun, just not my personal favorite Muppets movie. I wasn't huge on Muppet Treasure Island when I first saw it, because I think I just went into it with the wrong mindset of wanting to get invested in the main character, instead of just focusing my attention on the goofy Muppet comedy. This one has a really great comedic energy to it, with some of the best little guys in any of these films. Honestly, I think it might have my single favorite visual and funniest moment in all of the Muppets, which is just the shot of Kermit trying to hold Miss Piggy up as they're dangling from a cliff. Tell me his face is not the funniest thing you've ever seen in your life. As a goofy, Muppety pirate movie, this is definitely a blast. But I think it's kind of lacking compared to the other Muppet literary adaptation, because I just did not get into the stuff that's directly lifted from Treasure Island. Admittedly, I've never read the original story, I just know it from Treasure Planet. But comparatively, I really cared about Jim Hawkins and John Silver in that. I don't care about this Jim Hawkins kid at all. Like, he's not annoying, but he just leaves zero impression on me whatsoever. And I don't really care for his songs either. I don't know, man. I kind of wish Gonzo could have just played Jim Hawkins. Is that like against the Muppet Code or whatever? Can Gonzo play a child character? Is that legal? He and Rizzo just feel a little extraneous to the story, when it could have just been centered on him instead of the kid. I don't know. You'd think Tim Curry as John Silver would be one of the most memorable parts about this movie, but honestly, I don't really think he was all that incredible in this. He has a couple funny moments, but for the most part, this is one of his tamer and less hammy roles. And I don't know, I thought he could have gone a little bit more over the top. Basically, the human stuff in this movie kinda underwhelmed me. But damn if it isn't an absolutely delightful Muppet adventure. The fight choreography is fun and weirdly impressive considering these are all puppets. The opening song is surprisingly raw as hell. I really like Sam the Eagle in this and his relationship with Kermit. And you know what? I can guarantee that if I saw this movie when I was 7 or 8, that Cabin Fever song would have been the funniest thing in the universe to me. That's really high praise, just so you know. Even now, it's a delightful little number. Overall, a very likable and fun film. But it's not really all that emotionally investing, and I would have rather had them just make an original pirate story, since I don't really think the Treasure Island stuff was all that great in this. Ah well, I still thought it was fun. And now, it is finally time for the penultimate installment of the Shea Frillis Sandwich Sticks! The truly epic saga that rivals the Odyssey, where I acquire sandwich ingredients. Oh man, I've been excited for this one for a while now. I finally get to interact with one of the Muppets! There's so many possibilities! I could get a fish from the guy who throws fish. I could have the Swedish chef cook me up something good. I guess there's always Doc Hopper's frog legs if I wanted to be controversial. Oh man, so many exciting possibilities for this one. I can't wait to see which Muppet character I meet for this.
Oh, why hello, darling. What is it you want?
No, not the PS2 chicken lady from Muppets Wizard of Oz. That's literally the only character I didn't want to interact with.
Oh, don't be shy, darling. I can get you any ingredient you want. How about I lay an egg for you and you put that on your sandwich?
What the fuck?
Oh my god, you're ruining this for me! I could have had a funny, casual conversation with Roy from Kermit's Swamp Years. I could have had Constantine give me a mortgage loan or a thingy thing to put on my sandwich. Literally anyone would have been better than this. Ugh. That's it, you stupid, dumb, stupid wizard. I know you're just hiding behind special effects, and I'm gonna destroy you for this. I just wish there was a random director who could make an out-of-nowhere, unexplained cameo and give me advice on what violent thing I should be doing in the next scene. Hey, it's me, famous Muppet character Quentin Tarantino. Oh my god, Quentin Tarantino? I love that movie you made where Leo pointed at a screen and, I forget what else happened in it. I showed Margot Robbie's dirty feet. Oh yeah, that, You know, you're not really a whole lot better than the sexy PS2 chicken lady. Yeah, but I'll make up for it with a cool thing you could do to kill her. Just shoot her with— If you say dehydration gun, I am going to fucking kill you. I was gonna say your laser vision. Right, my laser vision. How could I forget that I have that and canonically have this whole time? Thanks, Quentin Tarantino. Hey, no problem. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to find something to do with my time since I still don't know what my 10th movie's gonna be about. Maybe I'll take up website making or something. But I don't know the first thing about it. Do you? oh, Quentin, my guy. You're gonna want to sit down for this. Let's talk about Squarespace now. Squarespace is an amazing online website builder that enables you to create beautiful websites for your business or personal hobby. You can utilize their new design intelligence features to build an amazing, more personalized website tailored to your unique needs, allowing you to create your own digital identity you can use across your entire online presence. Squarespace makes it easy to sell all sorts of things like online courses, blogs, videos, and memberships. Put your content behind a paywall to get recurring revenue. Simply set the price and choose whether to charge a one-time fee or subscription for access. Plus, you can easily manage all your payments in one place with Squarespace Payments. It's super quick and easy. You can get started in just a few clicks and start receiving payments right away. Your customers can use tons of popular payment methods like Klarna, ACH Direct Debit in the US, Apple Pay, Afterpay in the US and Canada, and ClearPay in the UK. Check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/ShayFrillis to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Wow, Squarespace is pretty cool. No wonder Martin Scorsese was nominated for Best Director the same year as me when he made that Squarespace commercial. I'm pretty sure he was nominated for like The Irishman, but I don't feel like checking. Maybe it was the Squarespace commercial. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the chicken now. Alright, you stupid mother clucker, or should I say, wizard, it's time for you to die! Because nobody in all of Oz, no sexy PS2 chicken there was, is ever gonna fuck up my sandwich! Pew!
I hope you're happy.
Good news. The wizard is dead, and no one mourns the wizard. Can you guys tell I've been listening to the Wicked soundtrack a lot lately? Hey baby, it's me, Constantine. I mean Kermit. Thank you for killing the wizard for us all. If no one has any objections, I will now take his place and I will give you this mortgage loan to put on your sandwich. Oh hell yeah, I love the taste of mortgage loans. Thank you, Kermit. Yeah, I mean, was that so hard? We could have just done that from the start instead of going through the chicken lady and Tarantino nonsense. Whatever, next time it's the finale of the Schaeferless Sandwich 6! I'm so excited, baby! You won't want to miss the epic conclusion. See you then. Okay, back to the Muppets now.
Yeah, I got these jeans from outer space!
Muppets from space! I heard this one was not that great going in, and to that I have to say, you're not that great. asshole. I thought this one was an absolute delight. Just super funny, consistently off the wall, with some of my favorite subplots and bits out of any of these movies. The plot is pretty wild, though surprisingly not as wild as I was expecting. I kind of assumed that they were all gonna go to space in this one, but silly me, this movie isn't called Muppets in Space, it's Muppets from Space. As in, there are Muppet aliens at the very end of the movie, so the title isn't lying. Okay. I mean, the movie is really lucky that it's good and a ton of fun. Otherwise, I'd be a little pissed about the deceptive title here. So Gonzo is really sad that there's no one else like him, and he doesn't know where or who his family is. And in typical unhinged Muppet fashion, they get this across by cold opening on a dream he's having where Noah from Bible denies him access to the Ark because there's no other creature like him. You are seriously missing out if you've never seen these movies. Oh my god, where have they been all my life? Anyway though, Gonzo gets a message in his breakfast cereal that the aliens are coming. So he kinda goes insane and gains a cult following, but he also gains the attention of evil alien hunting General Jeffrey Tambor, who as expected gives an extremely funny performance as the villain, and really fits the general tone of a Muppet movie insanely well. Pretty sure this guy's a war criminal now, but even if he is a bad person, the performance is funny. There's always money in the banana stand, Gonzo! So Gonzo gets kidnapped and he's about to be experimented on, meaning the gang has to break into this government facility in order to rescue him. Rizzo makes friends in prison. Gonzo talks to a sandwich at one point. Miss Piggy gets into a karate fight with this one agent and then kicks him in the balls and he pogs. Do I even need to elaborate on why I like this movie? I could just list off the gags and you'll probably get it. I really don't know why this one has such an icy reception compared to the other ones. I personally like my Muppet movies when they're as wacky and off the wall as possible. And this one nails that with consistently creative and hilarious scenarios. Maybe some parts can feel a little derivative of the previous films. Oh, and they don't have any original songs in this at all. They just play pop songs, which is kind of a bummer. Coincidentally, this came out the same year as Tarzan, which did away with the traditional musical style of the Disney Renaissance films. So maybe there was just something in the water in 1999 that made people allergic to musicals. I don't know. The pop songs in this aren't bad, they're fine and all, but I do like my Muppet movies to have original songs. And lastly, the climax is a little bit underwhelming and predictable. It's also not bad, but it kind of just plays out in the exact way you'd expect it to play out, with nothing really going all that wrong. Felt a little bit uninspired compared to the rest of this loony-ass film. Oh well, despite a couple of hiccups, I had a blast with this one. It's such a great time. Man, this Tim Hill guy really knows how to make good movies. Let me check out some of his other films. Oh, Alvin and the Chipmunks, Garfield, A Tale of Two Kitties, Max Keeble's Big Move, The War with Grandpa, the third SpongeBob movie people don't really like, Grumpy Cat's Worst Christmas Ever? Okay, you know what? Maybe I'm being too harsh. I mean, I'm sure this guy's filmography is salvageable. Hop? How do you go from making a pretty good Muppets movie to making Hop? What happened, Tim? Maybe he got his brain lobotomized like they were gonna do to Gonzo in this movie. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Dude, we're getting the band back together!
Wait, are the credits of the Muppets 2011 the only time in any of these movies that we see the mana bit?
Mana.
That's one of the few Muppet things I actually knew from my childhood. I kind of thought it would be in more of these movies, but apparently it's mostly just regulated to the show. And this is the only Muppet movie that really cares about the show. Okay then. So I have an interesting history with the Muppets 2011. I actually really loved it on my first viewing, just a couple of years ago. At that point, the only Muppet movie I had seen was the original, which I wasn't a huge fan of on my first viewing. But this one just blew me away. I got emotionally invested in it, despite barely being familiar with the Muppets at all. Everything about it, except the Cars 2 billboard, was so incredible. And then I rewatched it at the very end of this marathon, figuring I was saving the best for last. And I think it might have lost a bit of its luster for me. I now have a preference when it comes to the Muppets. I like them better when they're completely batshit goofy. This one is arguably the most straightforward of all the Muppet films. It's an extremely simple plot meant to get the gang back together first and foremost. If they rebooted this series with a classic, completely goofy Muppet adventure, I don't think it would have worked nearly as well. This is the exact plot this movie needed to have. It's a great way to reintroduce audiences to the Muppets, and it's incredibly emotionally effective. This is by far the Muppets movie I cried the most at. At the opening, when we see Walter get inspired by them in the same way I was for the past 2 weeks of watching these movies. In the song when Kermit reflects on all his old friends. And of course, any rendition of Rainbow Connection, the most beautiful song I've ever heard in my life, maybe, is gonna get the waterworks going. What a beautiful and inspiring moment seeing everyone join Kermit in singing this passionate ballad. I wish it wasn't interrupted by the bit with Animal playing the drums again, especially because the drums don't even fit this song. But otherwise, this might honestly be my favorite moment in any of these Muppet movies, besides that one face Kermit makes in Treasure Island. The song is obviously incredible in the original movie, but after decades of history, hearing it again with everyone joining in is simply heavenly. This movie also has really good original songs. I love the opening number, Kermit's ballad, the Me Party song, and of course, Manor Muppet. I'm gonna be real, you guys, I don't think this song is amazing. It's very funny and a great moment in the story, but Academy Award worthy? It's not even the best song in the movie. Oh well, I guess it was this or give Rio an Oscar, and I didn't want that, so this is still a fine win. I like the montage where they get the gang back together. The kidnapping Jack Black bit is really good, and I love how far they take it. It's one of the best uses of a celebrity in any of these movies. Overall, this film is absolutely not devoid of the traditional Muppet silliness. But yeah, I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to see a little bit more silliness out of this film. I know, this one is more focused on being an emotionally satisfying reunion for the entire Muppets crew, but I still think there was room for more silly stuff to happen. Alright, I guess I should come out and say it and stop beating around the bush. I don't really like the human characters in this movie. I think they're kinda boring, honestly, and I'm not here to see Gary and Mary's relationship drama. Walter is valuable as a conduit to meet the Muppets through. He has a clear role in this story, but I just don't know how necessary these two were. I love Amy Adams, she makes any movie she's in better, but I still just didn't really find myself invested in what was going on with her. Even the villain, I can't really pinpoint what it is I don't like about him, because on paper, he's kind of fun and in line with previous Muppet antagonists. But I don't know, man, he's just really forgettable in this. I think his song was kind of awkward and slapdash, and even though this is a much better movie overall, he's kind of a worse version of Joan Cusack in the 2002 TV Muppet Christmas movie. I can't believe I like the villain in that movie better than this one. Oh, and I especially hate the way this movie ends. And I can't believe I'm saying that about a Muppet movie, but it is just so stupid. They have this great moment where it turns out they were nowhere close to raising the money to buy the theater back. But then they see how many adoring fans there are outside, and they get overwhelmed with joy enough to sing a cheerful reprise of the opening song. That's honestly a really cool and perfect ending, showing that they don't need the theater as long as they're together. And then Gonzo hits the villain in the head with a bowling ball, and he gets brain damage, and he just gives them the theater back. In the credits. Boo! Commit to something, damn it. Maybe they kind of wrote themselves into a corner because the villain also got the rights to the Muppet names. And we can't just have our characters lose their names, but I don't know, write that out of the movie, who cares? I just think it's a really stupid and pointless way to undo a perfectly nice ending. It's honestly the main reason why I brought this movie down a few placements. Well, that, and I've grown a craving for Muppet silliness, which this movie doesn't have as much of as I would have liked. It was a great return to form, I still think it's a great movie, but I think it got a bit undone by a certain follow-up.
It's almost like we have an imposter among us.
Oh no! Muppets Most Wanted is the 2014 sequel to the 2011 original film, The Muppets, which was the reboot of the theatrical Muppets series in general that only lasted 2 movies because Disney are cowards. It really serves as a sharp contrast to its predecessor, since that one was all about being emotional and getting the gang back together, taking some cues from the original Muppet movie tonally. This one is more like The Great Muppets Caper though. It's the team behind the 2011 Muppets saying, now let's do a silly one. And oh my god, did they nail the lunacy here. This feels right in line with the more ridiculous installments in that original 6-film run. I will say, my main issue with it is that it's a little bit overstuffed. Part of the charm of the old Muppets movies is how short and breezy they are. And this one is a little bit longer, while also just having a little too much going on, in my opinion. But other than that issue, oh man, is this a blast. Well, okay, I lied. There's another issue. I really can't stand Ricky Gervais. He's not awful in this film, but like, the smile that was on my face during the opening number faded away when I saw him on screen. He's tolerable here, but there are really so many actors that could have done his part better. Especially because he gets constantly upstaged by Constantine. Oh man, I think he might be my favorite Muppets villain. What a funny concept. An escaped master criminal from the Gulag who looks exactly like Kermit and steals his identity. I love the way he distorts many of Kermit's iconic lines. And Matt Vogel's voice acting is really good. You can hear Constantine slowly getting better at imitating the Kermit voice as the film goes on. It's a really nice detail. There are a lot of great gags. I really like the bit when they acknowledge the previous film shoved characters like Rizzo and Kermit's nephew to the side, but at the same time it made me angry. Like, you could have used Rizzo in this movie, guys. Come on, where is he? I like the part where Tina Fey is saying goodnight to all the prisoners who have these crazy names, and then she just says, "Goodnight, Danny Trejo." Tina Fey is generally pretty funny in this, even if she isn't given a whole lot to do. I also liked French Modern Family Man teaming up with Sam the Eagle. They had a lot of great bits. More than anything, I was just really impressed with what a good musical this is. So many of the songs are insanely catchy, and the way they're performed and staged are top notch. Like, this is a better Disney musical than Frozen was the year before. Brett McKenzie is such a natural songwriting fit for the Muppets, and we could be getting so many more bangers from him if Disney made Muppets movies anymore. Remember in the opening song when Miss Piggy sang, "The studio considers us a viable franchise"? Man. It was also pretty funny how the opening song playfully teased the idea of there being a Toy Story 4, and now we're on Toy Story 5, good lord. Oh yeah, this wasn't in the opening song, but the chorus line bit really got me. That was great. On top of all the funny gags, I think there's a really sweet subplot here with Kermit and Miss Piggy. I figured it would be a little hard to keep doing new things with their relationship in the 8th movie, but I thought the stuff they have here with them, especially the part where Miss Piggy had to tell Kermit and Constantine apart, was just kind of nice. Overall, a very, very good and very, very fun film. I had a great time with it, and I also loved the part with the helicopter. Helicopters are so cool, man.
This is a Christmas Carol!
The Muppet Christmas Carol!
The Muppet Christmas Carol is a fan favorite, and it's pretty easy to see why. For all its goofiness and Muppet chicanery afoot, it's weirdly a pretty good adaptation of A Christmas Carol. Like, it hits all the beats from the original story pretty effectively, and I actually got emotionally wrapped up in it. As much as I love the wackier films, I do have a soft spot for slightly more grounded and heartfelt Muppet stuff. And this is easily one of their most heartfelt films. I think the main thing holding this entire film together is Michael Caine's performance. Like, he is just absurdly good as Scrooge, and he didn't need to be. He could have so easily phoned in his performance in the haha goofy puppet movie. But he takes it so seriously, and that's what makes the movie work so well. I also don't think it would have been nearly as good if one of the Muppets played Scrooge. Unlike, say, Jim from Treasure Island, where I would have welcomed it. Here, the emotional core is so strong because Michael Caine is just going for it. Like, I actually cried at this movie. And not just the first time I watched it either, but on this rewatch too. I cried over the frog puppet version of Tiny Tim dying. That's the level of commitment to the bit that this movie is operating on. It got me sincerely emotionally invested in the grief of Kermit and Miss Piggy. But it also helps to have a human actor there who's really bringing his A game, who conveys really good, strong emotion and helps bring the story to life effectively. I can't stress enough, this movie is so much better than it has any right to be. It's a little bit lighter on the gags than a usual Muppets film, and really, one of my main problems with it is that as much as I love Gonzo and Rizzo, and as much as they do have great moments in this, sometimes it can be a little much, and they distract a little bit from the story with their side tangents. They'll do stuff that's not really related to anything going on in the story. It's just, here's Gonzo and Rizzo slapstick so you don't get bored, I don't know. I also think music-wise, this is one of the weaker Muppet films. Like, the songs are pleasant and fit the story very well, but there's very few that I remember compared to any of the other theatrical Muppet movies. I mean, I guess this one has better songs than Muppets from Space, but that's because Muppets from Space gave up on the whole being a musical thing. I also really like in this how they gave Statler and Waldorf their only actual role within a story. Like, they fit the Jacob Marley role really well, and honestly, they're just two of my favorites in general. Like I said, I didn't really grow up watching Muppet media outside of Sesame Street, but anytime I did catch a glimpse of some Muppet-related stuff, it was the two heckling old guys that always got the biggest laugh out of me. I also think it's pretty cool how they create original Muppets for Christmas past, present, and future. It kind of fits in with that whole taking the story kind of seriously thing they're going for. And they have really cool and interesting designs. I don't really know what else to say. This is a certified Christmas classic. I started watching it on a yearly basis during the holiday season, and that really isn't something I do for a whole lot of movies. This one's just got all the best vibes to it. It's not perfect, it's a little uneven in some places, but man, is it such a distinct and heartwarming Muppet film. Definitely one of my favorites. Oh my god, did I love The Great Muppet Caper. For my money, this is as good as the Muppet movies get. Just a delightful, zany adventure with non-stop incredible gags and a genuinely really sweet emotional core. I had an absolute blast with it. So many running jokes in this are just gold. Like the one where everyone considers Kermit and Fozzie to be identical twins. That takes me out every time. I love whenever the Muppets get flung out of something like a bus. Dude, that is such a funny visual. Oh, and Miss Piggy on the motorcycle, don't even get me started. Oh my god. And the pizza bit? Come on! And the joke about the guy not being out with his wife. Oh, that would have gone way over my head as a kid. It was so funny. Oh, and that guy on the bench who just gives that crazy story. What was that about? I feel like I could just incoherently babble about everything I find hilarious in this movie for days. Just take my word for it. It's one of the most consistently hysterical Muppets films. But that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of why I love this movie. It also gives us a super lovely and adorable depiction of Kermit and Miss Piggy meeting each other and falling in love. Honestly, this might be my favorite film in terms of how it depicts their relationship. I mean, it's also my favorite film in general because of the, But for Kermit and Miss Piggy 2 is also number 1. It got both categories, yay. I adored how nervous they acted around each other, how Miss Piggy was so insecure that she broke into and pretended to own the house of famous Monty Python and Shrek 2 actor John Cheese. I like their argument a lot too. Despite how absurd the dialogue was, the overall vibe of the scene was surprisingly natural, and I really liked how they reconciled afterwards. Like I said, without a doubt my favorite depiction of their relationship in any Muppet movie. Before I get to my favorite part of the film in general though, I should go over my only real issue with it. I don't necessarily know if the caper in The Great Muppet Caper was as focused on as it could have been. As good as the Kermit and Miss Piggy stuff is, it takes up a lot of focus in the middle, and you kind of forget there's a heist the gang needs to get to the bottom of. I was really interested in the heist plotline. I liked the rich lady who lost her diamonds a lot. I would have liked if she had more screen time. And that goes double for the villain. There's such a funny conceit behind him. The idea that he's madly in love with Miss Piggy, but can't let that get in the way of his heist. That's great, but there just isn't nearly enough of that, or him, in the film. I can't believe I'm saying this, but this might be the one movie that would be improved if they added a love triangle. The idea of Kermit and this real human competing for Miss Piggy's affections is such a hilarious idea that they really should have played into more. It would give you much more of a reason to root against him. I mean, there is enough there already, I guess, but I just felt like he should have been a more prevalent character throughout the narrative. He doesn't even show up until the halfway mark in the film, after all. But this isn't really a huge complaint. And we do eventually get all the fun heist shenanigans in the last act. So it's not too bad that they kind of take a back seat for a while. But the greatest part of this movie, in my opinion, has to be its musical numbers. The movie in general just feels like such a loving tribute to classic Hollywood musicals. And I was ridiculously enchanted by The First Time It Happens and Piggy's Fantasy. They're amazingly shot and choreographed. And I love the fact that this movie doesn't fall back on the excuse that, oh, this is just a goofy Muppet movie, so we don't really need to try that hard with the presentation. No man, I'm dazzled by the way the humans move just as much as the way the Muppets move, which seems like an unnecessary element to achieve, but it makes the film stick out way more. These Muppet movies are so damn committed to the bit, and I think that's truly incredible. Of course, the more Muppet-centric musical numbers are also fantastic. I had a huge smile on my face during Hey, a Movie and Happiness Hotel. The music and lyrics are strong, and the energy is abundant and infectious. What a picture. I do wish the story was a little bit better balanced between rom-com antics and the actual caper plot, but I genuinely don't think there was a single moment in this film where I wasn't enjoying myself. This one is fantastic. Easily my pick for the absolute best Muppets film. So that was the Muppet movie ranking. Thank you all for coming, and wait, Kermit Swamp Ears, why are you still here? I ranked you already. Last place. Wait, who's that behind you? Aunt Sarah from Lady and the Tramp? The last place character in my Disney villain ranking? Well, what are you doing here? And wait a minute, is that Kenji's Social Link? Piranha 2 The Spawning? The music of SNES Ghost Valley 2? Why are you guys all still hanging around? I ranked you all in last place, and I'm not gonna rank you again. Oh no. Oh. Wait a minute. No! No!
What did you do?
What I had to. No more false prophets! Follow me, and you will never again be deceived!
This is a threat.
Rise up! I am
Roy, I'd like to welcome you
to hell, motherfucker!